This week we're going to places I don't normally go to or places I've never been before, starting off with this community thrift store. We headed right for this glass case, which I looked in, and honestly there were a few accessories but nothing worth picking up. Then a few games here, but everything was either not worth it or overpriced. So I headed back towards the back where I ended up finding a demo disc for the PlayStation 3, and honestly, I haven't seen one of these things in ages, so I went ahead and opened it up and checked it out, and this was just a blast from the past, just because, again, I haven't seen one of these things in a very, very long time. Then I ended up heading into this used bookstore, which I have found video games, and they usually have quite a good selection. However, today, their shelves were pretty bare, but we're here, so we went ahead and looked through the PS3 section and didn't really find anything. But then I saw 2 copies of Jillian for the Nintendo DS. Remember when this lady was like on top of the world with fitness stuff and there was like a ton of Wii stuff? Obviously, these are just going to sit on the shelves because no one's going to pick them up. But then I saw a few Wii games. This caught my eye, but I thought I might have had it, but I should have picked this up for $5 because I definitely don't have this in my collection. The Xbox 360 section was really bare minimum, as well as the Xbox One and the PSP, but they did have SOCOM, so at least that's something for the PSP that's actually pretty decently priced for $5 complete. Not bad there. They did have a pretty big PlayStation 2 collection or selection, at least, I mean, pretty big compared to the other sections, but again, nothing really caught my eye, as well as some Xbox original games here. I thought I saw something, but then I realized it was just another sports game. So I kept looking at the books, which I like looking for games like this and stuff that have video game related stuff, but I got out of there because there was nothing to pick up and headed into this Easy Pawn, where I checked out the glass case, which actually was pretty full of stuff. You can see some Wii stuff, some controllers for the Switch. They had a bunch of Xbox One and PlayStation 4 games there. And they even had a few cool things up at the top. They did have 2 games that I ended up getting, a PS Vita game and a Nintendo Switch game. But for some reason, the pricing was a little weird, but I'm not complaining. We'll explain that later. I went and got the person, he helped me out, and I ended up talking to him a little bit. Sometimes they have some good stuff here, he said, but honestly, the 2 games that I got were definitely well worth it. Then I checked out and paid, and then I walked to my car with some new games, and the prices on these things were insane. Because I ended up getting 2 games that I didn't have in my collection, and honestly, I was shocked when I saw the actual price when I got to the register for these, because they do say $25 on each of them, so I figured $25 each isn't a bad deal. So I ended up getting Rayman Origins for the PSP. This is still sealed. I'm probably going to try to get that price off of there, but we'll get to that when it comes. But they wanted $25 for it. This is worth around $30 to $32 in the new sealed condition, so for $25, I was going to pick it up. And then I got Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. It's a long name, so I had to read it. For $25 as well, and it's worth around $25 to $27 complete like this one is. So I figured I went up to the counter, was going to pay for these at $25 each, and it would be 50 something. They ended up ringing me up for $13 each, so I got both of these for $26 out the door, which is absolutely insane. So I'm definitely glad that I picked these up, but we gotta keep going, so let's see what else we can find. I ended up finding this vintage mall on Google, and I wandered through it, but it was pretty much just that. A bunch of vintage clothing that I wasn't really interested in, as well as a bunch of antiques. There were some interesting things from the 80s and 90s, but nothing video game related. So I got out of there pretty quickly, honestly, and headed into the antique booth place that I go to that sometimes has decent stuff. First off, I ended up finding Medal of Honor Warfighter for the Xbox 360. Then I ended up finding Wall-E for the Xbox 360, but for $11, there is definitely a reason why this has been here for a while. I saw this Mario question mark blocks, as well as a bunch of other cool stuff in this booth, and they still have this awesome Pokemon corner, but everything's overpriced. I saw this Roblox and thought it was pretty interesting. Then I continued on through this little antique booth flea market type thing. There are a few games here, but everything was marked too expensive. Then I ended up finding this Mario Kart Wii car, or whatever you want to call it. It was pretty interesting, but a little too expensive. Speaking of expensive, this is the booth that always has consoles way overpriced, and they still have this drawer for the Super Nintendo for way too much money as well. So obviously I wasn't interested in picking any of that up. Then I ended up finding a few Xbox and Xbox 360 games, which we'll talk about in a minute, as well as 2 Guinness World Records books about video games. I saw these and knew I had to have them. First, let's start off with the Guinness Book of World Records. This is the video game version, I guess, for 2010 and 2011. And honestly, when I saw these marked for only $1, I had to grab them. While I was flipping through them, they showed some of the cool stuff from video games in the year 2010 and 2011. So I knew for $1, I would not be disappointed in picking these up. I think these are really cool and probably gonna be something that I check out, and maybe I'll make some videos about these. These things are definitely cool and well worth it. And last but not least was the Xbox and Xbox 360 games. I ended up getting 2 Xbox games and 2 Xbox 360 games. And every one of these was only $2, which blew my mind when I saw it. So starting off, we've got the Capcom Classics collection for the Xbox original. It's got a bunch of Capcom games, obviously. Street Fighter 2, Ghosts and Goblins. You've got Ghouls and Ghosts. We've got 1942, Gunsmoke, Final Fight, and a bunch of others, as well as the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. For $2, I saw these, and I believe both of them are missing the manuals, which is alright, but for the box art and the game, $2 is a no-brainer. I don't think I have either one of these. I might have the SpongeBob movie, but I definitely don't have the Capcom Classics, so that was definitely well worth picking up. And then I picked up 2 Xbox 360 games I just couldn't pass on. Gears of War Judgment. I don't have this in my collection. And then Portal 2. Absolutely amazing games here. Both of them, again, actually Portal has its manual, but Gears of War is missing it, which is kind of a bummer. But for the most part, I actually ended up finding some good stuff this week. And normally, I try to stay in the same kind of realm when I go game hunting. However, this week I wanted to kind of step out of my comfort zone and go places I didn't always go, and I ended up finding some good places, especially that Easy Pawn with both the Rayman Origins for the Vita still sealed. Absolutely amazing. Definitely keeping this in my collection, as well as Crisis Core. Don't have either one of those games. Absolutely love it. But then, since we had to go somewhere, we needed to pick up some more games, I ended up hitting up that antique place, which always ends up having some good stuff. And I ended up paying $10 for all of this, which is a no-brainer pickup. So I feel like we ended up having some good hauls this week. Now, it wasn't necessarily anything crazy, but we did get some really good games here and some awesome books that I really don't know what I'm going to do with, but for $1 each, I knew I couldn't pass them up. They just look so awesome, and it was definitely worth it. So I'm going to get out of here, so check out that video out if you haven't already, but I've got some more videos planned that I think you'll definitely like. I really had fun going to these new places that maybe I'll check out once in a while, but they're not going to be like mainstays, other than the antique mall at the end, and maybe that Easy Pawn I'm going to go to more, because it seemed to have a bunch of stuff. But I'm getting out of here, so make sure you check out that video out if you haven't already.